What's up, y'all? This is Will with Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast. Brought to you by us here at Schedulefly, simple restaurant employee scheduling platform, legendary customer service. If you're on pencil and paper or Excel, we'll make life easier for you with scheduling and communicating with your team. I can assure you that. If you're on another platform, one that's maybe VC backed, owned by private equity, lots of bells and whistles, tons and tons of stuff you don't need, terrible customer service, we'll make life easier for you too. But seriously, we have a simple web-based restaurant employee scheduling software, and we take great care of our customers, and we love what we do, and we serve thousands and thousands of independent restaurants and hospitality businesses all around the country. But this is also brought to you by our great sponsors, Pop Menu and the Giving Kitchen and Kickfin, and you'll hear about each of those momentarily. This episode is with Brian Smith, a phenomenal dude, local restaurant and bar owner out in Seattle, Washington, and tons of energy and passion for what he does. And the perfect example of why I love hospitality people so much. The first time we were scheduled to do this, we had to reschedule. And he was so apologetic. He was literally dealing with a fire that had happened and the ramifications of that. And we had to reschedule. And he was like, man, I'm really, really sorry. And I kind of got my hands full. And I was like, dude, you had a fire. Like, it's all good. But that's what, y'all, that's what great hospitality people do. They're always thinking about others. They're always caring for others, always trying to help others. And it's a wonderful quality. It's why we love our local independent restaurant bars and, restaurants and folks that run hospitality businesses at the local level care so much about their communities and so much about the people they serve and interact with. And it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to have people like Brian on this podcast and as a customer of our company, Schedulefly. And with that, let's get to a word from Pop Menu and a word from the Giving Kitchen, and then our conversation with Brian. And about halfway through, we'll hear a word from Kickfin. Thank y'all for listening. Pop Menu is, they're a partner of Schedulefly, and we have a lot of happy mutual customers. But Pop Menu is all about making your day easier and your sales bigger. They will simplify your marketing operations, bring in more guests, capture customer data for personalized remarketing to keep them coming back. With one super simple to use platform that integrates with most point of sales like Toast and Square and a number of others, Pop Menu starts with beautifully designed, easy to update interactive menu that transforms the guest experience online. It includes a brand new website that's optimized for search engines like Google for no additional cost, automated digital marketing, online ordering and waitlisting, and you'll never miss another call with their AI answering solution that costs as little as 47 cents an hour. Check it out. Check out the link in our show notes. There's so much more in Pop Menu. Here's my 2 cents. I've talked to a lot of our mutual customers, and here's what they say about Pop Menu. Great company, great customer service, great product, great results. Check out Pop Menu and check out this episode of Restaurant Owners Uncorked. This episode is also brought to you by Giving Kitchen. Giving Kitchen is a national nonprofit that helps food service workers in crisis. In fact, in 10 years, they've helped over 13,000 of those food service workers and awarded them over $9 million. If you or someone you know works at a restaurant, food truck, catering company, concessions, bar, tap room, and needs financial assistance or stability network resources due to illness, injury, death of an immediate family member, or a housing disaster like flood or fire, please ask for help at thegivingkitchen.org/help. That's thegivingkitchen.org/help. Link is in the show notes. Amazing organization doing incredible work for food service workers all over the U.S. Thank you all for listening. Excited today to have an opportunity to talk to my friend Brian all the way on the other side of the country. Great customer and great dude who has been kind enough to take some time out of his day to share his story. Brian, thanks, man. Introduce yourself.
My pleasure, Will. Thank you. My name is Brian Smith, and I am a restaurateur, bar owner in Seattle, Washington. Of a couple of beautiful little neighborhood bar and restaurants. One called Baker's, which is out in the Ballard Sunset Hill area, if you live in Seattle. The other called Bar Miriam, up on top of Queen Anne.
Love it, man. How is it? What's it like out there at this time of year? It seems like it would be a beautiful time of year when we're in this so much heat down here in the Southeast, but
yeah, I mean, I've kind of long said Seattle's the most beautiful place on the planet in the middle of summer. Like when we get that perfect, it's high 70s, it's sunny, there's just a bowl of mountains and water. It's pretty stunning.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you from Seattle?
I'm from the Northwest. I grew up in Eastern Washington, but I moved to Seattle to go to college and lived there for about a decade. I've always thought of Seattle as home for sure. Spent some time in Denver, spent some time in Brooklyn, but when it was time to open my own stuff and get to that part of my life, Seattle was always where it was going to be.
How and when did you get started in hospitality?
I got started, I think like a lot of us did, I got started in college as a means to sort of get through and pay bills and do that. And then after college, it was good money. And I was working a little bit at the time as an actor. I often joke I was the first ever actor bartender. It's never been done before. So I was doing that kind of hybrid thing and just sort of more fell in love with bartending when I got promoted to being a bartender at a really great spot in Seattle, pretty young, actually. I was about 23, 24 at the time. And that was kind of a big eye-opening experience of like, oh, you can actually make a career out of this. I just fell really head deep into bartending and got focused on the craft and on spirits and on product knowledge and everything that entails and the stories that are behind it. And spent a long time as a beverage director, was a general manager for a little bit, but just, really hit the spot in my mid 30s where I was like, I want to open my own thing. I think I'm ready.
Well, congrats on that. And you've got two places. So I got a lot of things I want to ask. It's interesting that, as an actor, I mean, I've had people say that, every night's sort of a performance in a restaurant and bar, and not every night's going to go perfect, but we have a chance every day to repeat the performance and learn from the mistakes the night before. And but in a lot of ways, it really is, isn't it? You're kind of putting on a show in a way for the folks that enter your doors.
Especially when you get into the bartending sphere, it really is a stage. I mean, it's the audience is all facing you, essentially. I mean, like the patrons are facing you. You have your space, you have your platform. So there is something about it that is just, it's long form improv with several different shows running simultaneously. It's kind of what it turns into. And I even too, having come out of theater, like when I got into to working on designing the spaces and looking for spaces and stuff, I was like, it's just like building a set, except for we don't have to tear it down.
Yeah. Did you do all your own design, or did you bring people in to do that? Or
I worked with a really good company up here in Seattle called Mallet. So had some really strong ideas about what I wanted to achieve, but definitely knew that was far outside my personal wheelhouse. So they did a great job. And both of mine, what I was interested in is small spaces. So they're both, one's about 1,000 square feet. The other one inside is only like 750, but it has a back garden space. So that kind of dictates design a little bit when you have those spatial limitations of like, all right, things are going to have to land where they land. And then they threw some aesthetic ideas at me, and I, really loved what they showed me. And so we kind of went from there.
My wife and I were watching this show the other night. It's called like Tiny Mansions, and it's tiny houses, but they're showing how much you can do in a small space, a living space, but it's with some creativity and great design. It's amazing what you can accomplish. And to make a small space feel bigger than, you can make, like, a small space can feel small or it can feel big. It's the same amount of square feet, but it's amazing what you can do with good design.
100%. And that was a big thing. I'm glad I spent the time that I did in Brooklyn, in New York City, because you learn the value of a square foot real fast up in
Mm.
New York, just because everyone's got small spaces and they had to work with every inch to mastery. So that was very sort of instrumental in my vision of how to put things together when I got back home.
Which one did you open first?
Baker's first,
Okay.
one, yeah, Ballard area.
When was that?
We opened in 2009, late April of 2009.
Okay. And then the second one was when?
Or sorry, I lied. 2019. Thank you, Brian. Get yourself together. We opened late April of 2019. So we weren't quite a year old when COVID hit.
Okay. And you opened a second since.
And yes, and so Bar Miriam I opened in February of last year, so kind of on the tail end. I had the moment. Baker's was doing well, and mercifully, Baker's is the one that is very small but has an exterior patio space. It had a kind of a backyard hidden garden. I
Okay.
mean, it was just concrete, but we landscaped it up. But that really helped propel through COVID. So we at least had outdoor as a fixture of what we were doing. And we had a really awesome neighborhood who wanted to support us and was willing to roll with the pivots that we had to make. So as we were getting through that, I kind of had a moment of like, I know I want to do a second. I feel like this at this time is when it might be a good time to go looking for something else, because other people might not be having as much success or might be just looking to get out because they're tired. And that was kind
Right.
of the situation. Was I found a space where the owner was actually doing pretty well, but just was done. And so got a pretty good deal on the second space and put some work into it, making it more my vision. And yeah, and then opened that up, about 18 months ago.
Did you, when you were looking around for that, did you use did you use a broker, or did you do that yourself, or how did you get connected with that opportunity?
Interestingly, I kind of was just browsing myself,
Yeah.
and found it myself. So then actually the selling broker became my purchasing broker as well.
Yeah.
It was a pretty kind of, that was weirdly magical. Sometimes things work out the way they're supposed to. Because when I moved back to Seattle to open Baker's, I had really lovely friends who let me, that kind of a basement apartment situation. And so I got back, my wife was still living in New York, and I stayed with them for almost a year actually, while I was looking for spaces, found Baker's. But they lived in that Queen Anne neighborhood, and I would always do this run, and kept running by this corner where in my head I was like, this neighborhood could really use the kind of neighborhood elevated cocktail bar that I want to put together. But that's the only corner that interests me in this entire area. And so I had this one spot in mind. And then right at the point where I was like, well, let me see what's out there if I were to open a second now. And that was the spot that I found that was available. And I was like, that's just serendipity. I follow that sign.
Magical serendipity. I love it, man. You things,
No.
yeah. I love the way you I view things the same way.
Yeah.
When it's like when you, I don't know, heart, mind, soul, you put something out there in the universe, and it's important to you, and you just kind of keep pursuing it and following it. It seems like things, like you said, they eventually work out as they should. I have to say, dude, you got some guts. Like, in there, you open in 2019, COVID hits, like, holy cow, nobody knows what's going to happen. Everything's going crazy. And then just keep pursuing that and open something in February of, I know that was on the tail end and everything, but that's an impressive, last few years. I mean, there were a lot of places closing the last few years. And
Yeah.
so well done on that. I got to ask you this then. So you've been in the industry a while. You've worked in Brooklyn, you've worked out there, you've learned a lot. When did you decide, I got to do this on my own at some point? And then from that point, how long was it from when you knew you were like, not just like one day, but like, all right, I got to do this. And then walk me through what happened next and how you fulfilled that promise or goal for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think I always sort of knew that the entrepreneurial bug was in there. I think it was just to be in a place of figuring out how to become my own boss, and also too, frankly, working in the restaurant bar industry for as long as I did, wanting to kind of move that into a space where I also had a little different hour structure. I wasn't working quite so late at night as much, just getting a little bit older. But I think it really wasn't long after I got married. So I got married in 2016. And at that point too, so much of the life leading up to that was our time together, our growth. We get married, and then it's like, well, what's the next step? We're consciously coupled, and so what do we do now? And we're living in Brooklyn, and I was loving it, but also knew that wasn't the forever job. And I think it was probably sometime 2017, maybe a year later, I was like, I think I need to do my own thing. I think I'm ready. I think I've learned a lot. I think it's time to apply this in my own way and tell my own story. I knew at that point that was going to be in Seattle, though. I wasn't very interested in trying to open something in Brooklyn. I loved it there, but like I said, Seattle's home. So moved back, I guess, very end of 2017, started looking. I think I found the space early mid 18, and then we built for about a year. So that was kind of the timeline. But I came back to Seattle specifically with the vision of opening my own thing.
Gotcha. Okay. You don't have, did you get investors or loan or both, or you don't have to get into details, but I'm curious just how you.
I kind of hybridized. I mean, it's private debt. So I have investors, but they're all strictly loan based. So didn't give up any equity in that regard for these projects.
Okay. When you do something like that, do you have like a set interest rate and a fixed amount of time to pay it down, or is that how that works?
Yeah, that's how I structured it. Was a set interest rate with built it though with the understanding that payments would be interest only for the first couple of years, just so that there was time to to get up to profitable before paying down the balance of them, but with an agreed upon, like, with the loan to be fully paid back by a date no later than, I think I had it at 6 years.
Okay. Gotcha. And did you do the same with your second?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Well, that's cool. That's great to have a group of private investors. It's just challenging with banks, even SBA loans with restaurants, particularly new ideas and stuff like that. So
yeah. I mean, that's the thing that I was really encountering too, is obviously it's a volatile industry. Obviously it's high risk from the perspective of banks and from, any investor really. So my approach was just to find a lot of people who were able to put in a little bit of money, which, and piece it together that way. But yeah, like trying to apply for a bank or an SBA loan as a startup restaurateur with no track record would have been, I don't think it happens really, unless you have a tremendous amount of collateral, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would imagine a lot of those folks are or whatever, you're probably your customers. Or were they local or?
Local. I mean, some friends, some family, and then, the first round with Bakers was a little bit more intriguing because it was people who had known me from when I worked in Seattle for a decade before. Some people actually who were patrons in New York and were like, let me know when you want to do your own thing. I'd be happy to help. So it was a lot of people wanted to help out. The second round with Bar Miriam was a little easier because rather than approaching someone with like, here's a piece of paper and some ideas and my face, give me money. I could at least point to like, here's the idea. And if you want to feel it a little bit, you can go check out Baker's, and that'll give you a sense of what I like to create. And then too had a lot of excellent patrons at Baker's, a couple of whom were like, yeah, let me help. Excited to be on board for your next project.
If you were to share this episode with your friends and family and investors, I would just, I mean, personally, what I would say is kudos to y'all, because I mean, I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I love the hospitality space. You know, we've been doing this for 16 years. This is going to be episode number like 500 and some change now. We're just kind of are passing over through 500. I mean, I've recorded more than that. And it's great when people take a chance on somebody in hospitality. It's an amazing industry. It employs, 15 million incredible people all throughout our country. I think it's the second largest employer other than the government, if I'm correct. And but it's a risky proposition, but it's a very rewarding proposition when you're able to help somebody start their dream as a personal investor. So I just would say this, like, thank you all for doing what you did for Brian. Cause look, this is, I mean, as you know, like, he's going to knock it out of the park, and keep doing that. And then providing opportunities for people to have jobs and places for people in the community to come in and enjoy themselves. So what a cool story, man. Like,
Amen.
Well, yeah.
Amen.
Have you had your oh shit moments where you're like, holy cow, I can't believe what I'm doing. Am I really doing this? Like when you were first getting going?
Still do every once in a while. Yeah, of course you do. I mean, it's that those, I don't know that those go away. I mean, it's definitely in the process leading up both times, had the oh shit moments where I'm like, not exactly sure how we're going to pay for that, but eventually you figure it out. I don't know if it's luck or if it's just, things just work out. But fortunately for me, in the build process, a lot of times, sometimes some money came right at the moment that you needed it, because something hit a snag and got a little bit over budget, this, that, or the other thing. And then even now it's you have the perfect storm where a couple of things are going to break down at the same time. And you're like, all right, well, there goes the cash on hand that I had. So let's really batten down the hatches for a moment and restockpile a little bit. But I mean, it's certainly never a dull moment. But it is exciting, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Never a dull moment. There's no doubt about it. Every day is different. Every day there could be I always say it's like metaphorical and sometimes unfortunately literal fires that you have to, I mean, whereas like,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, so one of the things, Brian, that I've been really focused on lately, because I think it's such an important thread that runs through all successful hospitality businesses. You have to get your menu right and your food right and your drinks right. You have to get your space right, and you have to get your people right. And if you can get your menu and your food and the execution right, and you get your space right, you can get people to come in, and your marketing and so forth. But people are really, in my opinion, they're the key. They're the lifeblood of a successful hospitality. They are what make people want to come back, because they're the ones providing that experience. So tell me about the people on your team and how you attract those folks and the kind of culture that you're, building and instilling in your team there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't possibly agree with you more. The team is everything, especially for exactly the worlds that I'm trying to create. Because my conceit, my idea is, I mean, it's not new. It's just, I'm not interested in downtown spaces. I'm not interested in super large spaces. I'm interested in little corner pockets in neighborhoods that I think would like the amenity that I have to offer, which is, what should a neighborhood bar be in 2023? It should be high-end craft cocktails. It should be really better than you are expecting food. Like, it should be carefully curated wines and beers. It should be like, you shouldn't have to go to a big sort of downtown scene to get a really great experience. I want you to be able to walk to that. But then on the flip side, that the energy of service and the vibe in the room is just full tavern style. Like, it's just very freeing. It should be, just fun loving, no pretense, just like, the place you want to go back to, because the idea is to build a really good regular clientele. To do that, of course, is all about the people. It's all about wanting, we have, it's incredible. Like, Baker's in particular, having been there a little bit longer, and I've got a strong team. I have an incredible general manager, who, like, people just come by to see her sometimes, and they're like, well, I'm here, I may as well get a drink. But it's like, it is that kind of a vibe where it is like everything is about that comfort. It's about the intangible quality of, gosh, I don't really want to leave right now. And then when you do leave, like, I can't wait to go back. And so much of that is about the interaction, especially coming out of the other side of COVID. I think it was true before, but I think now more than ever, people really want to just spend time around other people and feel good about it. They want to be seen. They want to have, like, good interactions with their bartender and server, because it's just like, we've all been cooped up for so long. So it's more important now than ever it was. But yeah, really good service can make up for okay food and okay drink. Really bad service can destroy really good food and really good beverage. I mean, that's just, I do believe that. I think you need to have all three, and they need to be harmonious. And that's, anyways, I couldn't agree with you more. The way that I've put that together is, fortunately, by having some strong people around me who other strong people gravitate towards. And so we've done most of our hiring just through our internal network, and then bringing in new people and tapping into their network, and them being able to be like, of people I've worked with before, these are the kinds of ones that I really enjoyed working with. And so just kind of folding the team in that way. And we've had a lot of success doing that, thankfully. I mean, they are small rosters, so that helps a little bit. And I know that this is a very difficult time for staffing in all industries, but in this one in particular, it's been nice that I've got a lot of pros, and I do my best to take care of them. And even though we're small spaces, to provide health insurance and other sort of things that help make it a more desirable place to work. But I don't know. I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate to have strong people around me, and to have them bring their strong people into the fray when openings became available. So
you're self-aware enough to know that's important, and you say you've been fortunate. I think you've done that deliberately, and it's working. So good job. I mean, that's great. Yes, it's really cool. I just love the image of what you're talking about, because this sort of neighborhood place that you can walk to, it's we don't know our neighbors as much as we used to, but we're social beings, and we want to connect. So maybe we don't know our neighbor, and we're not walking next door and, bringing a bottle of wine and hanging out as much as maybe we used to, but we still want that. So having a place you can go and, have folks from around join, and your neighbors become you and your staff, essentially.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it is. We're half of our regulars are just friends now. I mean, it's incredible. So it is like, it creates that. And then they get to know each other in the space too. Cause it is the other deliberate thing with Bakers is the inside. So we have that back space, which is tables, but the inside is just a bar. I was interested too in I personally am a bar diner. Like if my wife and I'll make a reservation somewhere, and if we roll in and there's seats at the bar, we'll be like, actually, we just kind of want to sit at the bar. And so the flip side of that was like, well, why not make a space that's entirely bar and cultivate our guests in the same way, where it's such a lively and fun room, because, it's not, if you came in looking for the quiet table, we don't have one. So, unfortunately, maybe we're not the right spot for you. But if you want to come and be in a lively environment and maybe get to know the person sitting next to you, then yeah, come in and have a good time.
All right, y'all. Time for a little mid-episode break to talk about Kickfin. Thousands of restaurants, bars, and breweries use Kickfin to tip out their employees instantly, no cash required. With Kickfin, tips go directly to your employer's bank of choice the second their shift ends. It's a really simple solution to a really big problem, because if you're still paying out credit card tips in cash, it's costing you. Time-consuming bank runs and cash counting take managers away from work that matters. Cash is hard to track, which leads to accounting headaches, and it creates the perfect opportunity for theft, human error, and compliance issues. Bottom line, there's never been an instant, secure way to pay out tips until Kickfin. It's an easy-to-use software that sends real-time cashless tip payouts straight to your employees' bank accounts 24/7, 365. Kickfin gives managers hours back in their day, makes reporting a breeze, and protects your business from risk. Most importantly, employees love it. Restaurants can have Kickfin up and running overnight. Employees can enroll in seconds. No hardware, no contracts, no setup fees. Visit kickfin.com for a personalized demo and see how restaurants across the country are digitizing tips with Kickfin. That's what they like me to read. I will tell you this. I know the folks at Kickfin. Check out the episode with Brian Hassan, the co-CEO of Kickfin, was on here on the podcast. Great people. Love what they do. They treat their customers well. We have mutual customers that love the product and love the way the relationship they have with Kickfin. So check it out. Link in the show notes. And let's check out the rest of this episode.
We were just talking about like these kind of literal or metaphorical fires that you have to put outside. I want to get back to that because it just occurred to me. I had totally forgotten, but you and I were going to do this a few days ago, and you had something come up last minute. What was going on? I don't remember exactly what it was, but I knew you were like, first of all, you're such a good dude because you were, felt so bad about, us having to reschedule. I mean, I'm used to this, like this happens a lot in your industry, and it's the same kind of stuff though. It's like, what was happening was it Monday, I guess, that we were going to do this?
Monday. It was Monday. So I have one other project that I'm working on now, which is a brewery in Northern California, in Chico, California. Called Ramble West Brewing. We are brewing beer now. We're about 3 months in. We're still not finished with construction. So we're both like putting cans and kegs in the market. The tap room is kind of open. I mean, we are pouring pints, but we're open limited hours because we're still finishing it up. We're not really at a grand opening yet because we haven't finished all the cosmetic touches. But I'm down here this week working on that. And of course, Monday morning at 7 a.m., we had something break and make a big mess all over the brewery. And we don't, it's right now, it's just 3 of us, the brewer, myself, and our sales director. And so when the mess happens, you got to clean it up. You don't really have a choice. And so it's all hands on deck, just solving the problem and getting through it. And of course, right into the time that you and I were supposed to talk, where you're like, well, that wasn't exactly the way I thought my morning was going to go, but, here it is. I mean, you have to roll with the punches. If you can't adapt, if you can't bend, you're going to break.
Hey, if you're not very adaptive and willing to just like take whatever comes at you every day in this industry, it'll eat you. It'll eat you up. There's just no doubt about that. I don't think I have it in me. I used to think I wanted to do what you do one day. I just don't think I have it in me. Which is why I like to talk to y'all so much, because I'm just like, man, amazing. I don't have this in me. But well, tell us about the brewery then. What's the story there?
Story there is actually, that was interestingly the first project that I started. It took a long time to get where we're at, unfortunately, for a myriad of reasons. But essentially what happened was I was working for a group in New York as their beverage director. And they were going to work on a project in the Napa Valley. And I was going to maybe partner with them. And there's a weird idiosyncrasy that if you want to get, they wanted to open a cocktail bar. There's not a lot of cocktails in the Napa Valley. Obviously wine country, but liquor licenses are super limited. And so but there is this world where if you're a brew pub, you can get a liquor license. So it's like, well, if you brew a little bit of beer, then they'll issue you a new license rather than having to pay a ton of money to purchase an existing one.
Okay.
And so my approach to that in going down that path was, well, if we're going to brew beer, I'd like to brew good beer. I don't really, I don't want to brew garbage and dump it down the drain. I don't want to force people to drink not good stuff. And just so happened that my father-in-law and was one of his business partners got wind of this, and his business partner's name was Les, was like, you got to meet my nephew Ryan. He's an incredible brewer. He just moved back up to Chico. He's been brewing at Lagunitas for a few years, was brewing down in Long Beach before that. He's from Chico Paradise area. You got to meet him. And I was like, great. Yeah, absolutely. Round about that time, I also was when I was having that strong epiphany of, I'm trying to get back to Seattle. I'm not necessarily trying to get to the Napa Valley. So I made the difficult decision to not take on that project, to make the decision to move back to Seattle. But at the same time, I was like, I'll still go meet this guy. I mean, Les's nephew sounds cool. So I came up and met him, and we had like a 3.5 hour lunch and just sort of hit it off in the way of, he's got a big background in brewing. I've obviously got a big background as a buyer and as a bartender. And we looked at Chico, and Chico's got Sierra Nevada. It's got a massive brewery, but it didn't have really any of the smaller breweries around this huge momentum that's building that you see everywhere. He's from this area, and so it just was like, it felt like fertile soil, and we kind of just said, let's do something. So we started down the process knowing full well that, he'd be here, full boots on the ground, and I would, be here a lot, but then also base out of Seattle. So we started the process, and then there was the big campfire that was extremely devastating for the area. It didn't hit Chico specifically, but it did torch Paradise, where my brewer was originally from. What happened then is, to be a brewery, you can only be in certain zones, especially in Chico, and a lot of the vacant spaces that were in these industrial or modified industrial zones, people were living in them now, or the landlords were waiting to try to rent them on short-term rentals to construction companies coming to help rebuild. So there was just no inventory. And so we just kind of hit a dormant phase of looking for space after looking for space after looking for space. That was when I was like, I need to start my stuff up going too, and worked on opening the bars in Seattle. Then we got the space, and we were building through COVID, which was awesome for supply chain and for everything involved with that. So it's been this like slog after slog after slog after slog. And, we're finally at the end of that tunnel. And so that's kind of how it happened that, we started down that path, and we both just kept our heads down despite adversity, and really just never quit. And it, almost, 5.5 years later, his beer is delicious. So it was worth it. And so here we go.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Once again, just sticking with it, and here you are. Dude, that's phenomenal. You have a lot of grit and determination, my friend. That's for sure.
I'm stubborn.
You need that, man. It's kind of like that dog after a ball, like just keep hustling.
Yeah.
Have you been to Riley's in Chico?
See, I haven't yet, but I know of it. I keep hearing about it. I haven't been myself yet.
Okay. Would you like me to connect you with one of the owners there, Travis?
Yeah, please.
They're a good customer. They've been a long time customer, obviously, just super famous place.
Yeah.
I've spoken to him a few times. Great dude, fun.
Yeah.
Love that vibe. So, I mean, I'd love to get y'all connected.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Okay, cool. Good. I'll definitely, we'll do that, after this for sure. So I've got this, I want to call out something. I've got this hat on, Giving Kitchen.
Yeah,
I bet you've never heard of them, have you?
I have not.
Yeah, no, they're out of Atlanta. But you will hear about them eventually, organically or whatever, but I'm just, so thrilled about what they're doing. And I think it's an important thing for the industry, which kind of gets into the next thing I want to ask you about, but they're a nonprofit that helps food service workers, hospitality people in crisis. That may be often financial crisis, sometimes, mental health crisis, but in 10 years now that they've been doing this, they've awarded over $9 million and to over 13,000 people. And that may be, I'm a restaurant employee or a bar, I'm a bartender. My kid was injured and I haven't been able to work, and I got an eviction notice. Like, I mean, it's that, or help with a utility bill, or I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah.
And you go to the Giving Kitchen's website, you apply for, you put in a case, and then they help, and that's their sole mission. And they have an incredible story. I won't get into the whole story, but I just had the founder, Jen Heidinger Kendrick, on the podcast recently, and I'm just like super thrilled about their story. And they're just growing like crazy. So I just like to mention it. I know I was like looking at myself in the screen, noticing the hat. So I thought I'd ask if you were familiar, but I mentioned that not only to just make sure you and, anybody, knows about it, in case there's ever somebody, that's in need, but I also want to talk about the people in this industry because, I mean, I've had people, they say an industry of misfits. I mean, it's people from all walks of life. I think it's the most amazing, diverse industry in the world. I mean, it is people from literally all walks of life. It doesn't matter where you went to school or if you went to school. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter your background. If you're willing to show up and work hard and take great care of the guests and be a great teammate, then you've got an opportunity, and the world is yours. I mean, it can be that you use it to learn new skills, which you're going to learn salesmanship, and you're going to learn, managing stress and staying calm under crazy situations and dealing with the public and dealing with teammates. I mean, there's just about 1,000 skills you learn. So you could use it as a launching pad for something, or you could do what you did, which is use it as an opportunity to build your own business, and it can be a wonderful and rewarding career. So, but it's also an industry full of a lot of people that, they may have, whether it's mental health issues or financial issues, it's just, there's all kinds of stuff that pops up. And I see the industry is, owners like you are great at taking care of their teams. Organizations like Giving Kitchen are great, but it's an incredible group of people. And it has been an industry where, this kind of work hard, play hard mentality for so long, which led to substance abuse and a lot of stuff, that's finally kind of like going away, in a positively, and people are finding different ways to have camaraderie. Having said all that, it is a grind. It is a tough business. And so it's often hard to give so much of yourself, so many hours, so many days a week, and then find time to then take care of yourself. So forgive me for the long, soliloquy, but I'm curious, just having said all that, what your thoughts are on that topic.
I mean, Giving Kitchen sounds amazing, and I'll definitely look into it, because I think that's such a necessary thing. I mean, I agree, frankly, with all the points you made. So it's, it's an incredibly diverse workforce that plays even to a lot of different skill sets. And one thing I've always liked about it is, you find a lot of artists that are working in hospitality because it's cash to help them while they're doing art, which is its own entrepreneurial spirit, which is something that's not like, you're not necessarily going to make a full living off of it, at least not at the start. So you have incredible creative minds in a space together. The other thing too, in terms of building a team and teams, teamsmanship. I mean, if you're any good at hospitality, especially in sort of the front of house, you have empathy. And so you get to be surrounded by that constant, like you care about the people around you, you care about your guests. That's how you get good at what you do. But and I do think you are seeing that pendulum swing back from the work hard, play hard sphere of like, it's impossible to ignore the fact that, the last 3 years have done a number on everyone emotionally and in terms of their mental health. And mental health is a conversation way more than it used to be, which is a great thing. And so when you are exercising so much empathy for so many hours under duress, under extreme situations, it's more exhausting than it's ever been. So I think something like Giving Kitchen's pretty incredible, because it is too easy if you had historically relied on substances to want to go right back to that. It is too easy to, to find what those crutches are. So like, I think that's incredible. And it's like, yeah, I love the industry. I love it because you can make a living in it, but it's not an easy living. It's, the days are long. They're, the very middle of your day, when you're the most hungry, is the busiest part of your day. So, there's so much that's involved to just the day-to-day life of what it is. Yeah, I mean, I have the utmost respect for everybody in the industry, and for their perseverance, because, we're not frontline workers, but I don't know what else to call us, I guess, necessarily, as we've gone through all of this. It's been a lot.
I can tell you one thing. I think a lot more people started thinking of this industry as essential workers during COVID, when you're cooped up and you're like, wait a minute, what do you mean all my favorite restaurants are closed? Like, whoa, no. Like, I don't want them to go away. How do I help them? I mean, people really changed their perspective, I think. So, So, I got to tell you about something, because I'm so excited about this. And I normally don't talk about schedule flaw stuff on here, but because it's not about that. But I'm going to, because this is a bigger thing, and this has to do with our community. So, if you were to go into schedule fly now and for the next 2 weeks, you're going to see a little link that says special Crocs offer. So Crocs has stepped up and enabled our whole community of 250,000 hospitality employees for the next 2 weeks to go in to, there's a link that's embedded in our site, and you follow that link, and any purchase you make, if it's not an already discounted item, you get 20% off. And which is fine. That's great. But here's the big thing. And this is why I want to tip my hat to Crocs for doing this. They're going to give 40% of the proceeds of every transaction where you follow that link to Sophie's Neighborhood. Now, Sophie's Neighborhood is a not-for-profit started by Jose and Lauren Rosenberg. They are customers of ours. They own two incredible restaurants in Boulder, Colorado. Hosea, like, he won Top Chef, and he's like, I mean, he's got a great brand. But you know what? Like anybody else, you never know what curveballs life's going to throw you. And a few years ago, they found out that their amazing, precious, adorable, sweet little daughter, Sophie, has something called MCTO, which is like 50 people in the world have this rare genetic disorder, and it's not good. And so they started this nonprofit called Sophie's Neighborhood a few years back. And Crocs happens to be headquartered in Boulder, and I got to know Jose and Lauren and found out this story. And so we've kind of spent, the last year working through and with Crocs to figure out a way, like, how could we leverage our platform to do something that could maybe help Sophie's Neighborhood. So that's what that's all about. So cool. I'm telling everybody I know, including now this whole podcast audience, like, it's in there for the next couple of weeks. Make sure your team knows anything they buy, if it's not already discounted, they'll get 20% off. But the bigger part is basically the whole profit. Like, Crocs makes nothing off of this. 40% is going straight to Sophie's neighborhood. So it's like a way that we figured like, okay, we've got this engaged community that's hitting schedule fly like all the time, logging in, all these employees, when am I working? Can I trade shifts? Well, boom, right there, like great way for us to band together and do something cool. So I had to share that. I'm just so excited.
No, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'll make sure to pass that along. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we just launched it yesterday, so I'm kind of on a high about that.
Cool. Very cool. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, so you got a lot on your plate, man, but you obviously have, like you said, you have strong people. You got your team back in Seattle running your places while you're down there in Chico working on this. So, I can't imagine there would be anything else going on, but I mean, do you have some other projects going on too, or?
No, not right now. We're gonna get this brewery up and settled and humming, and then I'm gonna take a moment and exhale, perhaps.
Well, speaking of I do want to get back to the the subject. I think this is tangentially related, but of mental health. I mean, so much of that is having good outlets and having healthy outlets that are not that don't lead to substance abuse or addiction. But you mentioned running earlier. Like, what do you do to try to maintain your sense? You've got you're married and you've got your family, but then like, what do you do outside of work if and when you have time to try to give yourself what you need?
Yeah, I'm unfortunately pretty far off my running, which is bad. I mean, it was definitely for years the best outlet for me in terms of relieving some anxiety and also just releasing whatever brain chemicals that you feel a little invigorated, you feel stronger, you feel better, you feel more prepared. And so unfortunately the last 8 months or so have been a little bit overwhelming. And so I've fallen off that, unfortunately. But so running was a big one. Exercise was a big one. Definitely try to do, even on a day-to-day basis, like spending a moment to do a little bit of something sort of meditation-y, or just finding the moments to clear your mind and to not get too bogged down. The other one for me, once we get past this sort of pinch point, is because I'm a big proponent of work-life balance. I try to really make sure that I provide that as best I can for all of my team. I'm not as good about it myself right now, but I'm excited to get back to it, and getting back to like doing the 3-day weekend, being like, I haven't been to Charleston before. I'm going to go check out Charleston and just see a new town, like having those little moments of that thing to look forward to, where it's like, all right, it's not like a crazy vacation, but I'm going to take my 3-day weekend. I'm going to go explore someplace new with my wife. And those are all outlets that are, I find very therapeutic for myself, for sure.
Okay. I'm going to say this, dude, make the time.
Yeah.
I know I hear you, but
Yeah.
Because your team will see that that you're doing it, and it makes it even more important to them, and that you're like finding ways, good outlets and good healthy outlets and stuff like that. And I'm super thrilled to hear you. Are you serious about coming to Charleston? Because I mean,
I've been to Charleston once before. We're trying to get back. My wife's been twice. We had such a good time there.
Okay. When you get serious, I mean, I know you're serious about it, but like when you start getting your dates, let me know. We have amazing customer. I mean, I'm up in Charlotte. I'm in Waxhaw, just south of Charlotte. I'm like 3 hours away.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I'm not even joking. I just got chill bumps. I don't know if you can see. I'm just thinking about our customers down there.
Yeah.
Some of the amazing restaurants, amazing people, boutique hotels. Like, make sure you contact me and let me get you some people that you will love to meet, that will take phenomenal care of you.
I will.
The other thing, if you're coming all the way over here, I would make a recommendation to go where I actually was the last 2 days, which is Greenville, South Carolina. It's a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours northwest of Charleston. I spent the last 2 days there doing podcasts with phenomenal restaurant groups. And one of those groups is actually out of Charleston. It's called the Indigo Road. The Indigo Road now has about 28 restaurants, 3 boutique hotels. They've got a couple of new restaurants they opened in Greenville. Incredible group with an incredible culture. In fact, as busy as you are, you probably won't have time, but if you dial into this podcast, I think today I'm actually going to post an episode with Kimball Brienza, who is part of the leadership team at the Indigo Road. And then next week, I had 4 episodes I did with Table 301. They're a group in Greenville. I'm telling you, man, like you start just Googling Greenville, South Carolina. I mean, like it used to be this little like secret, place where everybody in the Carolinas knew. Was like, man, this place is freaking awesome. And now it's blowing up. It's exploding with growth. People are moving there from all over. Super cool. But Table 301, check this out. I'm curious how this works with like, they've got probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 restaurants now, and they've had more. They've sold some to employees and stuff like that, but they're a bigger group. I'm curious how this would work. It's probably super hard, smaller, with a couple of small team too, like you have, but just check this out. I thought this is the most fascinating thing. They have every 5 years, if you're a manager there, manager on up through their owner and their senior leadership team, every 5 years, you take a mandatory paid sabbatical for 1 month.
Wow.
In addition to your normal paid vacation, all that stuff, whatever, they literally, you have to do it.
Yeah.
And you can't check email, you can't go into the restaurants, you obviously you prep for it, you get your team prep for it, but then like it gives you this month every 5 years to just decompress and just do, whether it's you want to travel and I had 2 people on that just got back. They had July sabbaticals. They do it in their slower months, which are like July and February. And they, both talked about what they did during their month and how meaningful that was. So it's like one of the cooler best practices I've come across.
Awesome. I love that. I mean, it is, it's just trying to make sure, because the other thing, this industry notoriously, in the hands of less forward thinking operators, will take advantage of people and ask them to do, especially in the back of house side, where it's like you're looking at 60, 70 hours every single week, just grinding. So I think that's brilliant. Like anything that creates a balance, creates some harmony and the ability to exhale. Sometimes we hold it in and a month off paid that's brilliant. I might steal that.
Well, it's worth exploring, or, even starting with a couple weeks, because, like you get a week off. We all know this, man. Like, I was at the beach for a week, a couple weeks ago. Like we left on Saturday. It was Thursday before I ever I told my family, I'm like, on Thursday, I'm like, I think I'm like finally relaxed. And guess what? We turned around and came back Saturday. So, but what's so cool about it is like, just imagine their tenure of their leadership team and their management is just like, it's forever, because they make those investments. So that helps, you're attracting and keeping just great people that feel so appreciated and validated and important, that are like, well, I would ever consider going anywhere else. Like this, this is home. So anyway,
I love that.
Cool. We had 4 episodes that'll start rolling out next week from them. So those will be good ones too. And we're really, I'm trying to figure out ways to, like, I get so many of these awesome best practices from doing these podcasts. I'm trying to figure out ways to start articulating those and sharing those, things like that.
I think that's incredible.
Well, I'm glad that you're getting to a point. It's funny, you said no like 18 times, and I know what that means. Like, no, like, about something else. That's good, man. You sounds like you need some time to just, have things just kind of humming along as best as possible, get some travel going and things like that. And I can also tell that after some period of time, you're going to be building something new, man, because I can tell you're a builder, and I love that, man. You got a great aura about you, Brian. This is like super fun talking to you. I hope that, and and also when you come, put in, like, if I can get down there, I want to come, like, buy you and your wife dinner. I love meeting our customers in person. Super hard for me to get all the way across the country. I got a family, kids and all that, but I love meeting people in person when I can.
No, we're gonna get down there for sure. Actually, I couldn't because of everything happening brewery wise right now. She actually just we had scheduled a trip for, gosh, I guess this was only 2.5 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, because she works a little bit as a communications coach, and so she had a job in Charlotte.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so she was in Charlotte. We were going to. I was going to try to go to Charlotte with her, spend a day or two there, and then drive over to Asheville. We've never been.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Yeah,
That's not far from Greenville, actually.
Yeah, so we're going to go to Asheville, and then we were going to go from Asheville to Nashville, which we love, and then head home from there. And unfortunately, I wasn't going to be able to pull it off by the time we finally got to that date. So she just flew to Charlotte and back, but she had such a great time there. She found this incredible, I wish I had the name of it in front of me, but so we're really excited to get back. And I think it makes a lot of sense for us to just do a nice, like, however many days and hit Charlotte, Asheville, Greenville, Charleston, maybe pop over to Nashville. I don't know, keep that separate, but like we're going to get down there. She had a good time, and I've always had a good time down visiting in, anywhere in that part of the world for sure.
Dude, we will put you on some great people in every one of those. And Nashville's not that, all these are like, like Greenville is maybe, I mean, I think it's less than an hour from, it's on the way between Charleston and Asheville.
Nice.
And if you're in Asheville, you ever heard of Wicked Weed?
Yes.
Let me know if you want to hang with them. Great folks.
Will.
They've got they're a great customer of ours.
Yeah.
Chai Pani's up there. Chai Pani was just voted last year James Beard most outstanding restaurant in the country. They're an incredible group of people, and we have a lot of customers in Nashville too. So that will, for sure.
Absolutely. I'll hit you up for sure.
What does that mean? Your wife's a communications coach. I haven't.
So she works with a group, actually. So COVID ended this period where she was in New York and I was in Seattle. So she bases in Seattle, but she works for a company that is based out of, I guess technically their headquarters are Connecticut now, called Genuine Know-How. And so it's communications or executive presence training. So they'll do seminars for a lot of people, everything like pretty large companies, law firms, things like that. And what it is games, exercises, and thoughts on how to have, a big thing of theirs is executive presence, that if you're like in front of a room, whether it's a massive theater space or even like just a boardroom, ways to eliminate certain verbal tics, ways to like devices to help you command the room a little bit better. And so that she works as a coach for them. It's a great job, and a lot of it they still do over Zoom, but often she'll have to be on site for different sorts of things. And yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. Because one of the ones that she has done a lot of work with is I'm going to blank on the name of the organization now, but it's particularly executive presence geared for women, and to be super strong in that kind of a sphere. And it's, it's a great job. And then on the flip side, she also works as an actor and a producer. So it's a good trifecta for her. But every once in a while she gets to go to a place and I'll be like, if I can, I'm going to tag along.
Oh, it's amazing the difference that you can make with, as you said, commanding the room with your posture, the way, how you stand, where you have your hands, how animated you are, your voice, the way you project your voice. It is incredible, the subtle, easy to replicate and practicable tweaks you can make that just completely make a difference in the audience.
It's huge. It's huge in terms of, and a lot of what they do is about the verbal, is about Well, some of it's communication and figuring out ways to like conflict resolution and things like that. But a lot of it too is about like slowing your thoughts down, connecting your sentences, eliminating certain tics, like letting people realize that you don't always have to talk super fast. Sometimes like having a more clear through line in thought and helping people hear your point more clearly. It's all very valuable skills, even for people who think that they have them. It's interesting where you can take a second and do certain, like you said, exercisable practices and come back to the same sort of speech and just do it better and feel it in your bones of, oh, I get where that's coming from and why that was more effective on my part. So yeah, it's all super useful tools.
You have, what was the Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky won the Nobel Prize for economics. I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago, but they're both psychologists. And Tversky passed away, but Kahneman wrote this book called Thinking Fast and Slow that I read a few years back. And he talks about system 1 and system 2. System 1 is your emotional thoughts. And then we all make emotional decisions and we post-rationalize whether we know it or not. But your system 1 is just pure emotion. System 2 is the more thoughtful side where you're more engaged in understanding the implications or the impact of what system 1 is trying to tell you to do. So much of that kind of communication is exactly what you're talking about, which is slowing down and just engaging system 2, not just your pure raw emotion. And it's hard. I'd love to talk to your wife if we do get a chance to hang out about like conflict resolution, because system 1 is just firing a lot of times, and it's very hard to slow down and engage that more thoughtful side and not just go with just raw emotion. But what an important leadership skill for anybody that's leading people, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or a bar manager.
Yep. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's really cool. I bet she really enjoys seeing the progress that people make when they really are truly committed to it.
Yeah, no, she does. Absolutely does.
I got to let you go, man. I could talk to you a long time, Brian. I've really enjoyed this. I appreciate it. I know our audience will appreciate it. And just, I mean, thank you for the business. Good luck with, everything you have going on at the brewery. I'd love to get you connected with the Riley's folks, and definitely let me know dates, and we'll get some, we'll get y'all in front of some wonderful people down here in the Carolinas.
I look forward to it very much and continuing the conversation when I'm down there.
All right, my friend. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.
All right. See you.
All right. See you soon.
Hey, y'all, before you sign out on this episode, a couple of quick things. Number one, if you listen to us on iTunes, if you could give us a star rating and a comment, it would help so much. Same thing if you're on Spotify, follow us, or any platform that you're on. If you would just do whatever their rating or follow options are. What that does is it tells the algorithms that this content is good and meaningful and valuable, and it'll tell them to put it in front of more people. So thank you for doing that. If you take the second to do that, that'd be so awesome. And also, if your restaurant is either using Excel or you're using some software that's expensive and has a lot of bells and whistles you don't need, or maybe doesn't have great customer service, we'd love to take care of you at ScheduleFly. Simple, easy restaurant employee scheduling software, legendary customer service, 30-day free trial, schedulefly.com. My cell phone number's on the trial sign-up page. Thank you for listening. See ya.